Yeah, hi there, everybody. I'm Tim. I'm a recovered alcoholic and drug addict. Very good to be here. Yeah, I'm a big book companion. If it's not in the big book, what are we doing? I've been one of those kind of guys in my recovery. I guess I'm blessed because I went into two fellowships that both worked from the big book, so it was kind of instantly translatable from one to the other, whether I was addressing my alcoholism or my cocaine addiction primarily, but really any mind altering substances that I learned ultimately would always get me into trouble. And think one of the mysteries and riddles of my addiction for so long was not working that out. So I could abstain from alcohol for a few days or a week, and then look somebody in the eye and insist I wasn't an alcoholic, but only if I was smoking a load of cannabis or doing a load of chang or whatever. And then I would get off the coke by taking pills, and then the pills would become the speed, and then the speed would be back to the alcohol. And when all I had was alcohol, my drinking was so destructive and dangerous. It was unbelievable, and it does seem unbelievable today as well, because I'm such a nice guy. I'm the nicest guy you'd ever meet. I'm looking after my dear old mum. I help other old ladies across the road without relieving them of their handbags and all the money and credit cards and stuff within them. It's the transformation over the last 22 years it's been for me. I'm 22 years clean and sober, or I should say 22 years abstinent, because during that abstinence, there have been times when I've been anything but sober emotionally, I think. And some of my behavior has been almost as toxic as it was when I was drinking and using. I say almost, but probably not quite. But still, constantly, I'm a work in progress. I don't. I will never fall into the trap of thinking that I'm cured. I am recovered. I'm recovered from the hopeless state of body and mind. I'm not suffering from the allergic reaction because I'm not putting any alcohol or other substance in. And I'm free today, at least, from the obsession, the insane idea that I can safely either drink or take any mind altering substance. I'm free from that insanity. Other insanities are obviously freely available to me if I decide to opt into them in my daily life. But that particular insanity today, I'm relieved from. So therefore, I consider myself recovered, but not cured. And that leads me back to the big book, to the kind of intro to the passages on step 11 in that text, where it says, we are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And part of that maintenance of my spiritual condition, an essential part of that, is prayer and meditation, as recommended in the big book. And the big book kind of sets out a set of processes on awakening, when we retire. It goes the other way around. It starts off with when we retire at night, and then during the day, and then on awakening. And they're kind of like they're great suggestions, and they're like an entrance almost into the kind of almost the kindergarten of spirituality for us addicts and alcoholics. And for many of us, staying in that in that kindergarten is absolutely fine. And simply by waking up in the morning and contemplating my day ahead, and praying to God to ask for guidance through that. And when I hit the buffers during the day, again, reaching out in prayer, and at night, reviewing my day, and answering all the questions in the nightly review. These are all things that I do. But over the years in my sobriety, the requirement for me, for this alcoholic addict to actually expand and reach into the conscious contact with the God of my understanding. And anybody got any doubt about God, the big book deals with all of that quite effectively as well. You only have to go to the top of page 47 in the book. I promise I won't quote too many pages from it, but hey, this is the big book compendium after all. So you pay your money, you take your choice. Top of page 47. If you don't know it, why not? What's going on? Turn to it immediately and read where it will say something along the lines of And when we speak to you of God, we mean a God of your understanding. And this applies to all spiritual expressions in this book. Carte blanche for any of us to believe and access and strive for conscious contact with any higher power of our understanding. I think we stretch it a little when it becomes the chair. You may have, the chair, it supports me through my recovery. The chair is not going to be able to kind of somehow intercede between me and the insane idea that I can drink or use again, which is the reason why the whole book was written, was to connect me with a power that can actually come between me and that insane idea. If that insane idea was merely the chair on which I sit, or that power was merely the chair on which I sit, I might struggle a little. I mean, for me, there is I do have a faith in a power beyond me that also resides in me, and I need to cultivate my connection with that power as earnestly as I can through prayer and meditation. And I was urged to do this by an American guy in a convention in 2001 in the UK, when a drug fellowship was very, very young there. And he came over to me during the rolling meetings after a break in the rolling meetings where I'd said something about God or whatever. And he went, and you'll excuse the American accent, he went, "Hey, have you got a God in your life?" And I was like, yes. This was like my second or third meeting in recovery. And then he kind of grabbed me by the shoulder and said, it's all very well having a God in your life, but you got to access the power. And he had kind of rays of light coming out of his eyes, and he looked like he was on something. And I realized, much like there's a Cheech and Chong sketch where the character's saying, "I was all messed up on drugs and now I'm all messed up on the Lord," and this is what this kind of guy epitomized to me. I was like, wow, he's absolutely crackers. But he was one of the founding fathers of Cocaine Anonymous and an ambassador for that fellowship, which of course is a big book fellowship. And he saved my arse that day. He saved my arse, because I never forgot, and have never forgotten, and never will forget to my dying day, that encounter with him, the earnestness and the passion with which he spoke to me. And he saw through the sort of the wrapper that was around me of just being hesitant about whether or not I would commit wholeheartedly to the 12-step program as set out in the book, and whether or not I would actually believe at the core of my being that I was alcoholic and could not manage my own life, and that probably no human power could relieve my alcoholism, and that God could and would, if he, she, her, it, them was sought. See the top of page 47, as I mentioned earlier. He cracked me open to the three pertinent ideas in that one sentence. And I had a kind of alacrity going through the steps, a burning desire to get to the point where I would be given license to work on that conscious contact with the God of my understanding. And I do that with the baby steps that are prescribed in the big book, but I also do that these days with a much wider and deeper meditation program and practice that I operate with today, that I've taken the advice of sponsors and of great speakers in all the fellowships, and have pushed and tried to expand my working knowledge and direct experience of all kinds of ways of connecting with the God of my understanding, and to see where religious people of all faiths and all denominations are right, rather than to specialize in what I had when I came in to 12-step recovery, which was an intellectual loaded gun with a short paragraph about every single faith and subset of every single faith operating in the world today, and telling you why they were fundamentally flawed and a load of crap and should be dispensed with immediately. I mean, after all, my own father was an Anglican priest. The Anglican Church in the United Kingdom is essentially Roman Catholicism without the Pope, in case you didn't know. And my dad was from a sort of incense swinging kind of high church mystical strand of that church. He was also a candidate for Alcoholics Anonymous. Not for me to say whether or not he was an alcoholic or not. He died too soon, I think, before that he had the opportunity to be able to diagnose himself. That I was brought up in this crazy, hypocritical world of, you know, a hard drinking, womanizing, table banging, swearing priest. And so that really kind of toxified my attitude towards the Christian faith in particular. And then I had all kinds of other societal, you know, news informed kind of reasons for debunking and loathing all kinds of other faiths as well. So, you know, I grew up this kind of proud, twisted Protestant that hated his own Protestantism and was adamant that people who believed in any kind of God were responsible for all of the ills in the world. And I was totally flummoxed when I opened up the big book and read pages in that book in We Agnostics describing me. And then on top of that, they even had the effrontery to have the son of a priest at the end of one of the chapters. I was like, what is this about? And I turned over from that to the next chapter, and they started talking about the actor. And for God's sake, I'd worked as a fucking, well, I say worked, I'd struggled as a useless, mostly unemployed actor in the United Kingdom for about 20 years before I'd come into recovery. I was like, what the fuck is, excuse my Anglo-Saxon, but what the fuck is this book all about? It's about me. It seemed to be about me in more ways than one. Till it was pointed out really that the way it was about me was in about how it described the condition and then how it described the solution to that condition. You know, the fact that it talked about the son of a priest and an actor were kind of, you know, they were incidental to me and my ego, which seized on them to try to make this uniquely my story. But it's our story, and it's a fabulous gift. And the gift that they give us in terms of opening up the door to prayer and meditation and to accessing whatever power that is in whichever way we choose over and above what's prescribed in the book is a wonderful gift. And it has saved, it's saved my life in the first instance, but it's saved my sanity in my life, because I've experienced the living hell really of the dry drunk, abstinent from alcohol and anything else, and yet deeply unhappy, sat in 12-step meetings, really not feeling the vibe at all, and doing what the wise guys would tell me, which is to just keep coming back and, you know, hold on and don't pick up, and going madder and madder and madder as I did that, without expanding my relationship with my higher power and without accessing that power, as Ken C so passionately instructed me to do back in 2001. And I can access that power with prayer and meditation, and it's a call and a response. You know, there was the glib joke about prayer and meditation, and about talking to God. You know, talking to God is prayer, but if he talks back to you, well, that's probably schizophrenia. But it's in meditation that I hope that the quiet inner voice that speaks inside me is actually somehow aligned with that higher power in which I most firmly believe. I believe in it, and the evidence for that knowing, I would go further, for me, I think I have a Gnostic experience of my higher power. It's in my recovery, because I was completely unable to stop under my own steam. And it was only when I came into the 12-step fellowships and did the work set out in the book that I was actually able to stay clean and sober. So there's all the evidence that I need of the existence of that higher power in my life. I got the faith in it by seeing it in the people around me, and then by taking up the suggestions that they gave me. Today, my meditation practice isn't just the contemplation that's really talked about in, you know, in this book written in the 1930s, again, excuse me for saying, but you know, in kind of white, middle-aged, middle-class America of the 1930s, Christian as well, nothing wrong with that. Although, you know, they had to watch themselves a couple of times. How many times does it mention the word surrender in the first 164 pages of the big book? Not a single time. And there's probably a good reason for that. The Oxford Group, the much vaunted predecessor to the 12-step program and Alcoholics Anonymous and all the fellowships since then, apparently the Oxford Group had a process called surrender, where members were compelled to kneel in front of their fellows and actually acknowledge their surrender publicly. A humiliating experience for any alcoholic, and something which Bill W. in the first 100 kind of twigged was not going to be a very cool idea for your average kind of run-of-the-mill alcoholic, for whom the word surrender is a downright dirty word. And I'm like, again, I'll tell you about the Protestants. I'm a no surrender school of kind of recovery. You know what I mean? And I'm so glad that what I was urged to do, rather than surrender, was to change sides and access a power greater than my own willpower, which was failing me dismally. And today I'll cement that with a meditation practice that includes all of the crazy woo stuff. So I will sit and do Zazen meditations in candlelight. I will chant Kundalini yoga meditations. I have all kinds of other mantra meditations that I use as well. I will use the centering prayer meditation, particularly when I'm at meetings. I will do Qigong standing Tai Chi meditation for upwards of 45 minutes every day. When I'm on a roll, I will do walking meditations. It's meditation. I really don't care what I'm doing, as long as I'm doing loads of it. And when I'm on fire, I am meditating for upwards of 3 hours a day, at the same time as holding down a job and looking after an elderly mother. I guess I'm kind of lucky. I don't have any kids. So, although I've just inherited, actually, I say I've inherited, I say I don't have any. They're absent, but I've kind of inherited a 12-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy. God help me, courtesy of the wonderful woman that I met as a result of my meditation, yoga and Tai Chi practice. That's it. Yes, I do yoga as well. Full, demonic crackpot. If you come from particular kind of schools of thought that think that sort of thing is somehow satanic or heretical, it's not for me. It works. The mindfulness physical practice, where we spend too much of our time is in our heads. If I can center myself back into my body by paying attention to my breath, and then to awareness of the self in the body, and then spend the time when I've become aware of the chattering mind and I'm not being dictated to by the chattering mind, when I can achieve those states, I can then listen for that quiet inner voice. And it's just possible that God may speak to me, and God may answer my prayers, and may do it in such a way that I don't think that I'm completely fucking insane and that I need to go and check into a mental health unit because I'm hearing voices. My meditation practice enables me to create a space between thought and action, between experience and reaction. It gives me a fighting chance of remembering that I am an addict, that I am an alcoholic, that I'm fundamentally flawed. I have a problem centered in my mind and in my body, that I became spiritually disconnected as a result of my illness. My thinking can easily lapse back into high levels of toxicity, paranoia, extreme negative thinking, and defiant individualism. And with a meditation practice, I'm able sometimes, these days more often than not, to bypass those fundamental core defects of character and interact with my fellow human beings in a much better way for them and for me. That's the beauty of the meditation practice that I've been gifted in the 12-step program. It's the beauty of the recovery that I've been gifted by the Big Book. It's why I'm happy to accept an invitation from someone like Steve to come to this meeting and speak to you about that 11th step. And rather than bore you with the detail of each kind of meditation, what I've really hit you with, and I apologize for that, is really just this kind of onslaught of why it's so important and why I do so much and what that achieves for me. And if that has helped one of you, then my job is done. If I've pissed you all off, then I'm very, very sorry indeed. And I'll go away and meditate on that. But I hope that somebody in this beautiful assembly of addicts and alcoholics got something from what I said, and I'll now hand the meeting back over to you so you can blast me with your own sand blasted versions of how everything actually should be. Thank you very much.